Hello, everyone. Welcome back to It's a Wonderful Podcast for another amazingly exciting foray into the world of Brit Noir, Jeannine, as we continue our series in Noirvember 2025. Oh, it's just the right time of year. I love it so much. I'm in such a good mood. I finally get to watch this movie we're talking about again for the first time in a long many years. It's been ages since I'd had the pleasure of watching today's movie, and it was very, very nice to return to, having obviously learned so much more about the genre in the years since. I'm not quite sure if I ever gave this movie as much credit as I think I do now upon second rewatch,
I like
second watch.
Yeah.
For me now, knowing everything else, I can pinpoint it. I can put it right in and amongst the greatest noirs of the era, and certainly the greatest British noirs. You know, I think an argument could be made quite significantly that it is possibly the best British noir ever made, because it stylistically it falls in line with many of the great American noirs, doesn't it, really? Which is not something we could say last week with Brighton Rock. As wonderful a movie as it is, stylistically it's noticeably a lot different, noticeably far less expressionistic than your typical American film noir. But that cannot be said for 1949's The Third Man, Jeannine, as directed by Sir Carol Reed, who will be coming back next week as well to direct Odd Man Out with James Mason. Written by Graham Greene again, this movie, as we had with Brighton Rock last week. So he's coming back for the first two. Carol Reed's doing the middle two. I'm not sure if there's any correlation between Odd Man Out and Night and the City, which are our third and fourth movies in this series, but we'll get to that when we get to it. Interestingly, Graham Greene wrote, I think, a novella of The Third Man whilst this movie was in production, because he was writing the screenplay and needed to do that first. It's a sort of process. It's not a story that came before the movie, like a few years before the movie or anything like that. It was kind of all done at the same time.
Oh, interesting.
Because I know if you go and look at Graham Greene in a bookstore and things like that, you'll see The Third Man and Other Stories, for example, in kind of a set, because it's quite a tiny story compared to a lot of his other things. But of course, we have, starring in this movie, Joseph Cotten, namely, who is basically in charge of the whole movie. He's wonderful. Alida Valli as your female lead, who obviously, whenever she shows up in anything, is particularly captivating, I think, as well. Orson Welles, who ends up stealing the movie, obviously, when he eventually shows up as our enigmatic
literally
character. Yes, he does, quite literally. And Trevor Howard, who obviously we love from particularly Brief Encounter.
Yeah, with the silly little mustache. We'll have to see.
I wouldn't say it's a silly little mustache. I must say.
It's very thin and tiny little mustache.
I think it's a very well-kept mustache, and Trevor Howard is definitely
I was going to say Mustache Hall of Fame. Okay.
Definitely Trevor Howard's going into the Mustache Hall of Fame. Please, let's give a hearty round of applause at the beginning of today's episode to Trevor Howard for his induction into the Mustache Hall of Fame as our Viennese police chief. That he is, because we are, of course, in post-war Vienna. War-torn Vienna in this movie as well, and that the setting very much mirrors the story in terms of messiness, I
Oh,
think.
yeah.
And that, you know, the fact that it festers or it fosters a sort of criminal underbelly amongst the rubble
Yeah.
and the repairs going on in this part of the world, this occupied part of the world
Yeah.
at this time as well. Obviously, Allied occupied at this time. You get it's sort of splitting parts between France and Britain and the US. Is Vienna at this time in history, and you feel that sort of chaos among
Oh, yeah.
the city's kind of going through. There's no real
Falling apart.
organization there.
Yeah, yeah.
And like I said, it fosters the mysterious criminal element of this movie because it is an incredibly mysterious movie. And I know I've waffled on at the beginning
No,
of
no, no,
this
no.
episode, Janine, as I often tend to do. But first and foremost, what do you think about The Third Man? I was a fan anyway, but I think I'm an even bigger fan, like I said, after this watch.
Yeah, like, I haven't seen a ton of Orson Welles films. And this was obviously a first time watch for me, and I was incredibly impressed, particularly with the cinematography. It's probably why it won an Oscar for best black and white cinematography. It looked
Yes, it
absolutely
did.
beautiful. There were some really dynamic and captivating shots, like moving through a bush,
Oh yeah,
they're talking about someone, and then we move to the bush to kind of get the someone they're discussing's POV kind of thing.
yeah,
Um, uh, the kind of ending shot as well, absolutely stunning. Uh, her walking in between all of those trees. I
yeah.
was obsessed with that final scene. So beautiful things to look at. Um, Great tension. Um, I wasn't sure because the similarities to who made this film, the writing, the directing with the film from last week. So to see kind of that stark difference in the look of it, we did talk a bit about kind of the guerrilla filmmaking style of Brighton Rock.
Yeah.
So to kind of go
Maybe it didn't have the
the budget,
production
yeah,
capability. Or maybe,
yes,
yeah, not necessarily the budget, but maybe it didn't have the production capability of being expressionistic. But then again, Brighton Rock, I think, excelled in being stylistically what it was. And I think The
yes, a
Third Man
gritty,
excels in being
grimy.
stylistically what it is.
Yes, it definitely kind of speaks to the story it's telling. So I liked that because this film is all about mystery, that was kind of also present in how the film looked and how it felt. Shadowy streets and oh my gosh, the whole ending sequence in the sewer. Um,
Yeah.
the echoing voices and the different openings and all of that kind of stuff was just so many interesting things to look at. The film kind of look speaking to the subject matter in a way. I found that
Yeah.
incredibly captivating to watch. So I really enjoyed this film on a first time watch.
I mean, it is distinctly different. It is so very, very expressionistic.
Hmm.
It wears its Central Europeanness on its sleeve, I
Yeah.
think, even though obviously it's a British movie directed by a British man, written by a British man, everything like that,
Yeah.
produced by a
Yeah.
British
By a
company.
British company. Yeah.
But it wears its Central Europeanness on its sleeve, its particular Germanness, and yes, of okay, it's
Yeah, and it makes
Vienna and
this
Austria and
yes,
things like
but it
that, but
makes
it's
this
the
place feel
same
like a
culture.
limbo locked in between all of the chaos that's happening.
Well, exactly, but I mean that from an expressionist point of view, from
Yeah,
a certain stylistic point of view. You could
yeah.
say it is painfully stereotypical when you consider it with other
Yeah.
noirs in terms of it constantly being lit by street lamps and nothing else.
Mhm. Yeah,
The shadows are ridiculous. It's always
yeah.
raining and it's always at
Mhm.
night.
Yes.
Um, your characters are either down on their luck or haven't got a clue what's going on
Yeah.
or are involved in some sort of
Shady
police
dealings.
procedure.
Yeah. Yeah.
that they're not quite sure, particularly Joseph Cotten, obviously. He's never quite sure what's going on. There's a mysterious criminal element that you're never quite sure exactly what it is until it's revealed to be what it is. There's a captivating, enigmatic woman in the middle of it all. And obviously it is shot in that way that obviously uses a lot of the tilt angles, the Dutch angles, as they're referred to, which is it is what this movie is known for. Predominantly, that is what this movie is known for. To look at it now, and as I said, to look at it now and to look at it in context of many other noirs, you could consider the use of all those tilts and everything like that as rather stereotypical. But you must remember, this is the movie that perfected that kind of style of really, really making use of. Why not put your camera on an angle? That might be a bit, that might convey something a bit different to what other movies are doing. And we're not into the 50s in noir yet either. This is still the 40s. This is still, peak noir in late 40s. I would say 46 to sort of 52 is my peak noir period. So you're right in the middle of it in 1949. And yes, okay, even though you're not an American movie, I do talk about peak noir typically in an American sense. But it falls in line in terms of all of that, in that whole context. But all those tilts only add to the chaos feeling,
the drama,
of the movie, the mysteriousness of the movie, the unsuredness of the movie. You're never quite safe. You're never quite secure. You're never quite knowing what's going on.
On solid footing.
You're always, you're never on solid footing. And that's why you're always looking at the movie on some sort of 30-degree angle. Because, it wants you to
feel off balance.
It wants your head. It wants you to feel off balance. It wants your head to start rolling and go, oh dear, I don't know what's going on here. That is the special thing, I think, about The Third Man, is its mystery structure is so beautifully paced and really, really intelligently kind of thought out and slowly revealed. It's just gripping from start to finish, I think. I love it so much.
Yes, I really enjoyed this film. The aesthetics, of course, we've talked to death about already before we've even gotten into the film. But it just adds so much to the storytelling of this movie. So
yes, should we get into the story of this movie then? Jeannine, what is going on here? Joseph Cotten is a pulpy writer who is
writes
in
kind
Vienna.
of Western stories. Yes, and he's going to visit his friend in Vienna, an old school friend who's offered him a job. But as soon as he gets there, he finds out his friend has been hit by a car and killed, and the funeral is being held. So all within minutes of arriving, he finds out his friend has died and goes to the funeral. So things happen very quickly.
They do, and obviously we learn that this is Joseph Cotten. Holly Martins is his character's name. A great noir name, I think, is Holly Martins. I think nobody outside of the 40s into and that isn't some sort of pulp author could be called Holly Martins.
Holly Martins,
yes, or a journalist or something like that. But he's down on his luck. He's pretty broke. He's in Vienna, desperate for this job that his old school friend Harry Lime has promised him, and then to find out immediately that he has died. Under seemingly fairly straightforward circumstances, he's been hit by a car.
Right out front of the building where he lives.
There was witnesses there. People saw it happen. It's a very tragic situation, but we're sorry, Holly, but the guy the guy you're coming to meet, who's promised you all this, well,
Yeah, he's
you'll have to
gone.
come to his funeral.
Yeah.
But there's a certain sort of mysteriousness about his funeral as well, really. Then
Yeah.
there's the few sort of characters, not necessarily lurking around, but a few characters that catch Joseph Cotten's eye, shall we say,
Yes.
namely Alida Valli as Anna, who seems
Yeah.
very dour, I think, in the movie.
Yes.
She's very
Very
dour in the movie. She's very
mournful. Yeah.
morose,
Yeah.
I think. But she's a wonderful. She gives such a great performance in this movie. I think what is interesting about Alida Valli as an actress is she was made out, I think, to be this sort of continuation of a sort of Garbo type person.
Hmm.
Yet I don't think she was ever quite. I think that it's almost unfair to say that, because Garbo was Garbo. Nobody's quite like
Yeah.
Garbo. Garbo was a particular type of enigma, and I think to put it's
To
like
try to
whenever
put that on somebody else. Yeah, it's a lot.
yes,
Yeah.
it's a lot to
Big
sort of
shoes to
live up
fill.
to.
Yeah.
You find it in you find it with anybody
Mhm.
in whether it's movies, whether it's entertainment, whether it's music, whether it's sport, whether it's anything like that. Oh,
Yeah.
you're the next so and so.
So and so. Yeah.
Right. And they're never the next so and so. Anybody
No.
that has ever been given the title of the next so and so has never remotely lived up
Been able
to
to live
so
up to
and
that.
so's
Yeah.
legacy, you
Hmm.
know. So I think it's unfair that she had
To put that
that
on
on
someone.
her,
Yeah. Hmm.
because she had a solid career, and I do obviously like her later on in her career in Suspiria as Miss Tanner, obviously. But I think she's wonderful in this movie
Yeah, it's
because she's
incredibly
so easily
heartbreaking.
very, very heartbreaking, falls for the manipulation going on in this
Hmm.
movie, definitely,
Yeah.
which is kind of it's why you have sympathy for her, it's why you pity
Hmm.
her. And rather unfairly, she has not only, we come to learn, she's not only been kind of a bit played by Harry Lime himself,
Yeah.
but is kind of half played by Holly in the movie
Hmm.
as well.
Yeah.
Which, we don't necessarily love Joseph Cotten for doing that. He isn't as grey a protagonist as a lot of noirs tend to have.
Yeah.
He's on the lighter side of grey,
I mean,
sure,
he's pretty
definitely.
honest. He's pretty straightforward. When he feels something, he's gonna do it, and I don't think he tries to wrestle with himself about any kind of moral quandaries. Like, when he feels like some shady things are going on with this investigation or lack of investigation into what's happened to Harry, he pushes
Yeah,
for it. He's constantly bugging about it no matter how much they tell him to let it go. Like, he's still constantly wanting to stick to his guns on figuring out what's going on and pushing for it. Even in moments where he could potentially be implicated himself, he's still very
yeah,
gung ho about that thought process. And then when our twist kind of happens and he kind of learns about who his friend really was, then, he has no problem backtracking on his original thought and wanting to do what he feels is the right thing. There's even points where he gets kind of fed up and just wants to leave. So he's not incredibly deceptive in that way, or um, kind of gray in the way of um, complicated feelings. He's very kind of
no.
like resolute on what he's feeling in that moment. And if something changes, he will change his way of thinking. So,
Keep this question in mind to maybe answer in more detail when we get to the relevant part of the movie. But you can answer in vague terms. Do we think that Holly double crosses someone in this movie? Do you consider it a double cross? Because that is my moral question with Holly. Is it a
Okay.
double cross?
I think once he's given more information, no.
No. Okay, interesting. I think it's
Yeah.
interesting that you say no. We'll get there, of course, as
Yeah.
we get through this movie. This investigation, or as you said, lack of investigation into exactly what happened to Harry. Everybody seems to know Harry in Vienna.
Yeah.
Everybody seems to, to know who he was,
Mhm.
and he was a very well known, if not necessarily well respected figure. He was very well
Yeah.
known,
Mhm.
particularly to the police. But he's just questioning why nobody is really looking into, because it seems to be some sort of murder. It seems to have been a murder. He's been hit
Yes.
by a car.
Yeah.
Who's killed him then? We don't know. And Joseph Cotten
Yes.
obviously is very desperate to kind of find that out.
Yes.
Um,
And even in talking to Anna, he finds some discrepancies in the story he's been told about what happened. And then,
yes.
going into the title, he hears that there was a third man who helped kind of move his body. He's also hearing that uh he and Anna were mentioned at the time of his death, but then, he got another part of the story that showed like he wasn't conscious enough to be talking about people.
Yeah.
So he's very
It's like
confused and he's
one of the
getting conflicting
witnesses.
stories. Yeah.
Yeah, one of the witnesses. So there's two sort of known witnesses. One's this Baron character, and one's this
Mhm.
Romanian man. One of whom is saying essentially, "Oh, Harry died. He died instantly. It was,
Yeah.
the car hit him, and it was instant impact. It was very sad, very
Yeah.
tragic." But after he, or I should say, before Holly has heard that, he's heard that he and Anna, as you say, were both mentioned by Harry as he was
Yeah.
dying. Well, that's
Yeah.
inconsistency
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
This is where the mystery comes in, and you are there watching it, going, well, how, why are people
Yeah.
being inconsistent about this? Why is there some sort of, is there a cover up at play? Why would there be a cover up at play? Why can't anybody who actively was a witness, why is their story not the same? This is all very unusual.
Yeah.
Help me, Police Chief Trevor Howard,
Yeah.
is essentially. And Police Chief, I'm going to call him Police Chief Trevor Howard because that's not his
Yeah.
actual title in the
No.
movie. He's a very, he's a very, very English man.
Yeah.
We'll just say that he doesn't necessarily get on with Holly Martins right at
No.
the beginning of the movie at all. They're quite contentious to each other.
Yeah.
He's called Calloway. Holly's constantly calling him Callahan, and then Trevor Howard gets offended because Callahan's an Irish name, and obviously it's
Yeah.
1949. English people hate the Irish and all this
Yes.
business. Let's not get
Yeah.
into that. We'll be getting into that next week. That's Odd Man Out. That's the whole point. Is
Yeah.
is Irish people. It's the whole point of that movie, and
Yeah.
the horrifically messy politics between Britain and Ireland.
Yeah.
Is kind of the point of Odd Man Out. But Trevor Howard is kind of unlikable a lot in this movie, and I rate
Yeah.
it from him. I like that he's able to give this very, very stern sort of shut up and let me do my job
Yeah.
attitude. Who are you to tell me how to go about my job? I
Yeah.
know what I'm doing. I'm doing as much as I can. And Joseph Cotten is kind of pestering him to a degree to look further
Look
into
into it.
this.
And there's an interesting juxtaposition because his kind of first in command kind of guy, second in command kind of guy is a fan of Holly's books. He's
Yes.
read
I mean,
them
did you
and he knows
notice
them.
who he was played by at all?
No.
The original M from from the Bond
Ah,
movies,
okay,
Bernard
okay.
Lee.
Ah, okay.
which I find quite interesting. A
Yes.
little, obviously, 15 years or so before, nearly
Yes,
15
I'm
years
like,
before he would
yeah,
play him.
yeah.
But I found that quite interesting because he was very, you know, bowing down to Trevor Howard for the entire movie, wasn't he? And
Yes.
going, "Oh yes,
Yeah.
sir. Oh yes, sir. We must do whatever you want, sir." And it's just like, look at M being a wimp for the entire
Right?
movie. That's quite
And
funny.
also kind of just like fangirling out over over Holly. Meanwhile, um, Calloway is very much like stern with him. So
Yeah,
having those two dynamics kind of face off against Holly was an interesting kind of uh, made for some interesting scenes with the three of them.
yeah, yeah. But as you say, it gets more interesting when it is revealed that there was a third man
Hmm.
present at Harry's death. Who is this third man? Nobody knows. Nobody
Yeah.
knows who this third man is. It's very, you know, it is very, very mysterious. And Holly obviously ends up doing his own little individual investigative
Hmm.
work, aside from Calloway, because he doesn't overly trust Calloway.
No.
Calloway's there as the law enforcement, the actual legal side of things, in case anything does go on and he needs somebody to actually make some sort of arrest or
Yeah.
chase somebody down or something like that.
Yeah.
But Holly's not got anything else to do. He's got no money. He's been invited because of his writing to this weird sort of lecture at this
Yeah.
hotel
Yeah.
by who I think is the guy from My Fair Lady, Rex Harrison's friend from
Mm,
My Fair Lady. He's invited him to give this speech on the modern novel or something
yeah.
like that
Yeah.
at this hotel,
And so he'll
which he
put him
doesn't
up.
really
So
want to get involved in.
no, but because he has no he's here now and he has nowhere to stay, they're gonna put him up. So that's why he accepts it, so that he can have somewhere to stay while he continues kind of on with this investigation. So he
But there's
reluctantly
times when
agrees.
that just gets in the way
Yeah.
of his investigation because it becomes far more interesting, far more darkly interesting when he's
Mhm.
obviously speaking
Yeah.
to, namely the Baron or the Romanian man who turns up at his lecture.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of Joseph Cotten in the movie. There's a lot of I would call it anxiety performance from him in the movie. There's a lot of real worry in his
Mhm.
face, and
Yeah.
I suppose confusion is a good
Mhm.
way of describing it as well. I think he's very, very good at running with the confusing nature of this mystery in this
Yeah.
movie because it's not a complex movie by any
No.
stretch of the imagination. This is not a complex movie. This is a very straightforward movie. It just gives you the tiny little bits of details, very, very particularly paced, that keep you gripped, keep you engaged, keep you, really wondering who exactly Harry Lime was, what
Yeah.
exactly went on, how deep does it go, if it goes deep at all. We
Yeah.
obviously learn it does go a little bit deep, but
Yeah.
we don't know that for a lot
No.
of the movie at all. Um, so when other things get in his way, and ultimately get in our way of learning more about the investigation, we're kind of like, oh, do we really need to be here speaking about our books?
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
you know, he's constantly telling people in the movie, oh, they're nothing much, they don't sell well. But
Yeah,
then
he's very
Bernard Lee's over there
disengaged.
being a fan of him. He doesn't
Yes.
really care about his own writing.
No, he knows it's kind of crap, and so these people asking him all these questions about authors that inspire him, what inspires his work, but he's so distracted, and you can tell like he's looking off at somebody kind of in the background, um, who has brought. I think it's the scene where like the guy is watching him, one of the guys who supposedly was
Yes, the
there,
the
um,
Romanian guy.
yes, when Harry was killed, and, he's brought, cops with him. And
Yeah,
so he's kind of focused on that while all of these people are kind of shouting these questions at him, and he's just very disengaged, and people are starting to leave and get mad because he's not answering the questions to their satisfaction. And so just the kind of chaos of things happening, him being very kind of nervous about it. And then ultimately, when he kind of feels the heat of these people in the back of the room kind of coming to get him or implicate him, he just runs
yeah,
away.
yeah.
Yeah.
Which you obviously don't want to happen because you want
Yeah.
some sort of criminal element to start taking hold in this
Yeah.
movie. You sense it's there.
Yeah.
I think before it's revealed, you do sense it's there. And
Well,
again, I think we
yeah.
have to talk about how weirdly we never mention the fact that we talk spoilers for movies on It's a Wonderful Podcast
Yeah.
because it's kind of
It's
a
like these
given.
movies have been out for a very long time, and we would hope that you would watch the movie before you kind of come in and
Yeah,
uh partake in our discussion. But yes, I mean, the man who, I think he was somebody who worked for Harry, who said he knew who the third man was. um Holly was about to talk to him, and then he ends up getting
yeah,
killed. And
yeah,
Holly is there when the man is killed, so he all kind of almost immediately gets implicated. So that's when he kind of is getting chased and asked
yeah.
questions and things. So that's kind of where the criminal element comes in.
Just
Also, in order
just gives
to
Calloway more of a reason to not really
yes,
like him.
yes, and Calloway also to kind of um implicate the image that Holly has of Harry. He tells him the crimes that Harry was accused of, that he
Yeah,
did this terrible thing of stealing penicillin from military bases and then diluting it and then selling it on kind of a black market kind of
yeah.
operation. And because this is like
Pharmaceutical racketeering.
exactly, and because this is now tainted penicillin, it's not doing what it's supposed to do
No,
to cure the meningitis of these families and these children who are
it's
dying from
really
it.
nasty.
Yes, and so he tells him this, but I think he tells him it when he first kind of is talking to him after the funeral, and Holly doesn't wanna believe it. Like, he doesn't
No.
believe, he thinks Calloway is just kind of trying to trap him. So we are kind of getting those like criminal elements happening with this little bit of nugget of information about Harry. But we're kind of in Holly's POV. We're kind of trusting Holly and how he sees his friend right out at the front. So we're trying to not maybe believe Calloway because he's coming off as this very obnoxious kind of character.
Yeah,
So I like that they kind of sit us nicely in Holly's perspective about his friend, and when he kind of has this integrity of not wanting to believe what Calloway is saying, we're kind of wanting to also not believe it along with Holly. But
we are. Yeah, I
we
mean,
are simmering with kind of criminal things happening, and then when this man is killed, who has information
yeah,
that could help Holly in his own little investigation, now we're really kind of dipping our toes into some dark happenings that
yeah.
are leading us to kind of where the big kind of climactic twist is about to happen.
I think after that killing, we are more in line to believe Calloway.
Yeah.
And what he's saying, even though as a character he may be quite contentious and
Yes,
rough.
and also adding to that is his now pressuring of Anna,
Yeah.
finding her papers to be, forgeries and threatening her and thinking she might have more information on Harry than she's letting on, and we believe her. We believe she doesn't really know,
Oh yeah,
anything.
100%.
Especially seeing kind of how mournful and sad she was at the funeral, and kind of how mournful and sad she was even when she's kind of spending this time with Holly, and kind of maybe an attraction building between the two of them. It's clear that he kind of is falling for her, but she's also
Yeah,
very kind of open to it.
I
Maybe
was
out
going to
of this
ask
kind of
about that.
yes, maybe out of this kind of sad, mournful loneliness, and connecting with someone who knew they can kind of commiserate and bond over both knowing and caring about Harry. So I think that's kind of where her affection kind of starts and ends, where his
Yeah.
goes a little bit deeper. And so that just adds to, I think, the annoyance we have with Calloway, who is kind of preying on this woman who's already kind of in this grieving process.
Yeah.
But yeah, in kind of delving into their kind of romantic relationship, it's definitely Holly kind of all in on her, because even when he first sees her at the funeral, he can't kind of take his eyes off her.
Oh, of course he
Um,
can't. No.
and then once he kind of gets to know her, um, that attraction kind of springs up very quick for him. But I think for her, it's more just about kind of the loneliness and connecting with somebody who also knew somebody that she really cared about, and then kind of bonding over that. So I think that's kind of where the care for Holly ends with Anna, but he obviously feels much more for her.
Yeah. But then I would ask you the question as well, and I'm going to keep it vague
Okay.
for the time being. Do you think Anna knows the truth about Harry?
I honestly don't think she does,
Okay.
because
maybe I'm a bit more unfair to these characters than you are.
okay.
Because
But I mean,
you
this is the
answered the
first
double
time.
cross question
Yes.
as no before as well. And I'm gonna say it now. I think Holly does commit a double cross, and I
Okay.
do think Anna knows the truth about Harry. And I just think it's all I believe, maybe because it's this type of movie and I'm
Yeah.
just in this vibe, but I tend to believe that all characters in these movies have greyness within them
Okay.
and have the capability of deep lying lies,
Okay.
that maybe don't overly affect anything, but that just prove them to be a bit selfish. Because I
Okay.
tend to think everyone in these kind of movies is out for themselves. They have to be out for themselves in this world as well. This is
Mhm.
a very unsure time and location that we're in. Yes, the
Yeah.
war isn't happening anymore, but we still don't quite know what the future for Vienna looks like in this movie. It's all very messy, as we said.
Yeah.
Calloway's constantly talking about this sort of controlled element of the city. You can't leave without our saying so. You can't
Mhm.
come in without our saying so.
Yeah.
It's essentially, you're trapped, but if we want to get rid of you, we will, and you're never getting back in. So it's all this
Yeah.
real sort of controlled thing. So I just think that fosters an
A
individualism
selfishness.
within
Yeah.
people
Yes.
and a fight for just yourself and maybe a dishonesty for other people or towards
Okay.
other people, and just you have to look out for yourself more than anybody else. So
Yeah.
I do disagree with you on both of those questions.
Okay. I think an argument can be made for Anna potentially knowing the truth about what's actually
'Cause
going on.
she was his lady.
I get that, but um I feel like there's some genuine surprise I feel on her end when things are revealed, when she's talking to Calloway and she learns things. I don't know. I guess I'm reading a genuine surprise. Um,
It maybe is. It maybe is. I think this is the interesting thing
but
about Anna.
when it comes to Holly, I feel like I said, I feel like he feels things, he sees things, he pays attention to what's happening, and he kind of adjusts his reaction accordingly. So I
Yeah.
think if he was selfish and out for himself, he wouldn't be fighting so hard to find out what happened to Harry.
I
Um
mean, there's also another question. I mean, when we do get to the climax, I will ask this question
yes.
this other
When
question very, very
he
directly.
when he kind of actually sees proof of what Harry has done,
Yeah,
he also changes course when it comes to that as well. So I
I
don't
don't disagree with you.
those don't feel like selfish actions. Those don't feel like a betrayal. It feels like kind of really being smacked with the truth of somebody you cared about and feeling like you need to do what's right. So
Okay,
I'll give Holly a little more credit.
okay. I would also say I think there is definite difference between betrayal and double cross. I don't think double cross is quite
Okay.
as serious as betrayal.
Fair. Okay.
So I would agree with you in that
Okay.
sense,
Okay.
that it's not necessarily betrayal,
Okay.
but it's
Well,
interesting. It's interesting to
yes.
think
Well, I
about.
mean, is there an actual agreement that happens um
I think
on
there is an
Holly's part?
agreement. There is an agreement that happens on Holly's part as
Okay.
well. And I know we are being very vague, but we'll get into the hyped up climax of the movie
Yeah.
very, very shortly, of course. I did want to ask as well, obviously. Now, we like Trevor Howard, and you were very into Trevor Howard from Brief Encounter.
Yes.
And he's obviously playing a very, very different character in this
Mhm.
movie with, as you call it, a silly little mustache. Do we see any? Are we impressed? Are you impressed by Trevor Howard in this movie and his capability of doing what he's doing here compared to the other things you've seen, or is it just this kind of off-putting role in your eyes?
Well, I mean, it's off-putting to the sense that, like, he's doing a good job because he's making me forget, this kind of loving, soft-spoken character who, we met in Brief Encounter. Um, so the fact that I really believe kind of what he's doing in this role, I think speaks to him actually doing a good job of making me kind of
Okay.
forget another character of his that I enjoyed. Um, so yeah, I mean, I think he's playing it just right. He's playing somebody who has some sense of integrity, but also
Yeah.
is kind of working in a kind of screwed up system, so has to kind of manipulate things where he can. Like when he says he's going to try to help Anna, I believe that. I believe that he's going to try to do that. But I also believe that if he can manipulate her to get what he needs to get, he will do that as well.
Okay. Okay. Fair. Well, I like that as an answer. I think it's about time now that we talk about the large, loud voiced elephant in the room.
Yeah.
Some would say he turns into an elephant later on in his life. That would be quite offensive. I know he got quite large later in
Yeah.
life, but there's no need to start calling him an elephant.
Yeah, no, no, no.
Um, why did I say that? Um, Orson Welles takes over an hour to turn up
Yeah.
in this movie. Who is he playing? Well, he's playing Harry.
Yeah.
Do you mean Harry's not dead?
Now, we get a very interesting line of dialogue from Anna who mentions this cat, and her cat only liking Harry and
Yes.
only wanting to warm up to Harry.
It's the
And so
most
then we
famous scene in the movie.
Yes, so then we cut to a scene of just some feet in a shadowy doorway and the cat rubbing around these feet. And Holly sees this shadowed figure, and as somebody from the building above lights a light in her room, the
Yeah.
light casts, and we get a quick reveal of who this shadowed figure is, who is attracting this cat. And it
Yeah.
is Orson Welles as Harry Lime,
Well,
our
he's giving this
deceased
little
person,
smirk.
and he's giving this smirk. He's got his little hat. We're playing his little theme, his do 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 do
Oh,
little
the
theme.
music, the Harry Lime theme
Yeah.
music in this movie is so I love it. I genuinely love it. I think it's one of the great pieces of noir music because it's constantly played whenever he's mentioned. And
Yes.
then particularly obviously when he's actually involved in the
Yeah.
movie, when Orson
Mhm.
Welles does eventually show up in the movie, it plays as a signifier that he's around
Yeah.
and that he's going to turn up on some sort of rooftop or out of some
Yeah.
alleyway because
Yeah.
he's obviously staying hidden, staying underground,
Mhm. And we're
because
getting these somebody's watching you kind of POVs throughout as well, which is
yeah,
are great shots to kind of
exactly.
convey that. Yeah.
But I love the Harry Lime theme music. I do. I think it's such a weird little enigmatic piece of music.
Yes, I mean, I think it's great, but it's like the energy, the tone of it, is kind of this playful, cheeky aspect as opposed to kind of a darker kind of thing of what's happening in the film. So I
I
like
don't
the
even know
juxta
what instrument it's played on. What instrument is that
I
played on?
don't know, but it's giving like an Italian vibe for me almost. Like I'm picturing like Roman holiday. I'm picturing people riding gondolas like on a nice sunny day in Italy
Well, I'd
with
like
the
to
sound
just
of
be
this
that
music.
person now and say, why you wouldn't be riding gondolas in Rome? That's the wrong city. But that being said, I
Yes,
understand
yes,
what you
yeah.
mean. I do understand what you mean.
Yes. So like the twingly twing of this music,
Yes,
I
that's
just
a good
like that I
description.
like that it kind of speaks to not really what's happening in the film, but speaks to kind of describing this character. And
Yeah.
when we just see Orson Welles' face smirking from the shadows, feeling very satisfied that he's kind of tricked everybody, and you hear this kind of light, kind of playful tune,
Yeah.
it speaks to his personality really well
It does.
against kind of
There's
the
a lot
darkness of
of
the setting and the darkness of the story.
playfulness. You know, Orson Welles as a person was, I mean, very egocentric, absolutely
Yeah.
adored himself, and thought himself the best thing ever. And at times he wasn't far off being that. You know, so you can understand where that comes from, but there's always, if you watch any sort of interview with Orson Welles, there's always a wink in the eye playfulness about him.
Yeah.
There's a real mischievous side of Orson Welles, the person. So you think this role is just kind of made for him in this particular scene when there's
Yeah.
nobody else about. And Joseph Cotton's obviously he's leaning against this bridge, and the light reveals Orson Welles' face, and you just get the Harry. It's like, what? How?
Yes, and
This
then he
what?
disappears. Yeah,
And then he
and then he just
disappears.
vanishes. And yeah, like I didn't know how he was going to come into this film, because obviously I kind of had to pull some images for this to kind of when we were talking
Yeah.
about when we were announcing this series. So I saw that there were pictures of him, um, but I didn't know. I was like, "Well, maybe this is a flashback. Maybe this is, you know,
Ah, right.
a conversation that Holly had with him from the past before this happened. Maybe, and then obviously I did kind of speculate maybe it is a thing of him not really being dead, but it wasn't like a wholly for sure thought process. Um, so I like that I still kind of was able to not have that ruined for me. I still liked that it built for me to that point. So when, that
Yeah.
light kind of flashes and we see him, it still has kind of a fun impact.
I like that. I like that it
Yeah.
had that impact for you. I
Yeah.
do, because I really do. I think it's such a wonderful scene.
Yeah.
Um, and obviously, it takes him even longer to actually speak any lines in this movie
Yeah.
as well, because
It
he
isn't
might show
until
up, but then it's
Mhm.
another 10 minutes before he's actually speaking at all in this movie.
Yeah, yeah, and just so, Holly, he goes to the one of the men who had said he was there, who
Yeah.
clearly kind of is in on this situation, and the man is telling him, "Oh, come up, just come up and we'll talk about it," and I love kind of Holly's smart thing, "No, I like being out in the open, I'm not coming up there,
Yeah.
somebody was killed over all this whole situation, I'm not coming up there,"
Well, this is when you realize exactly what's going to happen. If he goes up there, he's dying.
Exactly, exactly. So I love kind of his smarts in this moment, not knowing who to trust kind of thing. Clearly this man is saying he saw Harry dead. He just saw Harry yesterday or whatever. So
Yeah.
he's telling him, "Tell Harry I want to see him. I know you know what's up." This guy obviously playing dumb. Come up, come up. And so I love kind of the intelligence of Holly to just be like, "Nope,
Yeah.
not doing
I'll
that."
be I'll be waiting here in this amusement
In the
park.
park. Yeah. And so then we get this really just a great shot of kind of the ride moving from this kind of undershot. Um,
Yes.
and then here comes Harry and they get on kind of this gondolier thing and they have their conversation. And I just like the energy of this scene. Harry kind of walking around when they're talking about Anna, he kind of, writes her, a little heart and her name in the fog of the glass of the
Yeah.
window. And um
I mean,
you
Harry's in
realize,
charge of this whole situation. I think
yes,
Holly believes he's in charge, but Harry knows he's
exactly
really
what
the
he's
one in
doing.
charge.
Yes, and you end up kind of really getting Calloway's appraisal validated here because Harry does not seem to have any remorse for the things he's done, how it's affected
No,
these people, how Anna's got tied up into it. He's kind of okay with, the trouble that she's getting herself
yeah.
in.
I mean, when
Um,
when Holly confronts him about it, his response is basically, "Well, I had to do what I had to do. It was
mhm,
every man for himself, old
yeah,
boy." He keeps calling him
yeah,
old
mhm,
boy.
yeah, yeah,
I don't see any problem with it. It's just business. It's a very
yeah.
cold way of being, but
Yes,
it's that Orson Welles mischievousness
exactly, and he's has
that
this little
brings out as
smirk on
well.
his face, and he even invites Holly in on the business and saying,
He
"Hey,
does,
you could make some money here," this whole kinda thing.
but you
Um,
do still get the sense that they are old friends, that they are
yes.
they were very, very
Yeah, like, he
close.
brings up this indigestion that he the same I had when we were back in school kind of
Yeah,
thing. So just, innocuous conversation and little nuggets of things that seem like they don't mean anything, but just kind of subtly speak to this connection of the past that these 2 have, which I really liked. Um, yeah, and you definitely feel like Harry has control of this whole scene, even him just staying close to the door, so immediately when the ride stops, he just gets off and kind of disappears again.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
but I don't know that
like
we get any
Batman
kind of
in a
yes,
puff of smoke.
exactly. So I don't know that we got any kind of hard confirmation of Holly really agreeing to support Harry in any way or be a part of his plan or
No,
anything like that. So
no,
that's where when he kind of flips on him at a certain point, I don't know that it's completely a double cross because I don't know that he 100% agreed to anything. And he has a true moral kind of crux that causes that switch. His switch is coming from a good place. So
I mean,
that's
I'll
where
talk in more detail about it now because I think we're getting there, and we're
yes.
pretty much at this climax now that ends up being a chase after Harry. Essentially, it's this whole
Yes.
build up. Holly goes back to Calloway, says obviously Harry's still alive. We've got to go on a proper search for him. He's somewhere in the city.
Yes, Calloway
Um,
decides to dig up his grave and sees that there's another
yes,
body in there, and it's
exactly.
so
It's
now
somebody
all of
else.
that's confirmed. They call in Anna and try to use her forged papers against her to get information.
Yeah,
She says she doesn't know. She seems surprised that Harry's alive, but she's still very much in defense of him. So I get the argument of maybe she does know and she's just acting. We see that she is a performer and an
yeah,
actress.
exactly.
So, I mean, great argument to play into her potentially faking all of her kind of surprise. But, just considering how sad she has been, I don't know. I kind of that just makes me want to believe her. And it never
I
gets
just
really
think that
confirmed.
is I I I view it as performance, and I think it
Mhm,
is
that's fair.
the intensity of her love for Harry, um, and the sadness comes from not actively being able to see him all the time because he would be too out in the open.
That's
Now,
true.
what Harry's plan may be, we never quite know. He's just hidden. We don't
Yeah.
know if he plans on staying just in the shadows for the rest of his life
Mhm,
or getting out of Vienna doing something else. We don't
mhm.
quite know what his plan is. But with him and Anna, I just get the sense that Anna definitely knows he's still alive. She just doesn't know where he is.
Yeah,
And she just hasn't seen him since he quote unquote died.
yeah.
But she definitely does know he's still
That
alive.
he's still
That's
alive.
just what I see. So
Okay.
that's why she's sad, because for all intents and purposes for her, he is dead, because
Yeah, she can't be with
she
him.
can't see him and she
Yes.
can't be with him.
Yeah, I
Exactly.
mean, all fair points to read it that way. I don't know, I just wanna put some faith in her, I guess, a little bit.
Well, you just think in the middle of the chase, when there's obviously everybody, all the police and
Yeah.
everybody are searching, and Harry is essentially found at Anna's. But Holly's there.
Mhm.
Holly's there as well. Harry comes in through the back. Anna does this spin around, and essentially the first thing she says is, "Harry, run! The police are outside." Not, "Oh, Harry, it's you. Come here, give me a kiss."
Yeah.
Like you maybe would expect. It's, "Harry, run! The police are outside." So does she not know? Does she not know?
I mean, she knows now.
She
'Cause
knows
everybody
now,
knows.
but I just think that's
Everybody
an
knows now.
odd reaction to have if
I
she
mean,
doesn't know.
even if she was just learning about it, I would still see some care there for him and wanting him to get away, and all of that. I think it still could play either way, even with that
It could.
added. Yes. So I think maybe there are more arguments in the favor of her knowing and just lying about it, but I don't know. Something about it just makes me want to believe that she's telling the truth.
Okay.
Um but yeah, I think with Holly, he ultimately decides against working with the police. And then he's even to a certain point is just like, I'm done with this. I'm getting out of here.
Yeah.
But then Calloway takes him to a hospital to see what
Yeah.
Harry's, you know, diluted drugs have done to these kids.
And
And so
it
in
is
in
very
witnessing
unpleasant.
that, that is what causes this double cross of Holly deciding ultimately to work with the police to capture
Yeah.
Harry because he's seen what he's done. And he also got to witness just how little empathy Harry feels for what he's
Well,
done.
exactly. Harry is very cold in doing this,
Yeah.
and this whole chase sequence and scope out sequence is very, very tense. The stealthiness of the beginning of it, that random man selling balloons who walks just enormously annoyingly in the middle of the
Right in the
square and
middle of all
starts
the
trying
chaos.
to
Yeah.
sell the hidden police a balloon, and they're trying to get him to shoo away because they don't
Yeah.
want anybody to know he's there.
Yeah.
And it's very, very tense. There's a stealth aspect to it, but once Harry's spotted, you get the dwingle dwingle theme again.
Yeah. Yes.
And then it is run, chase, go, get in the sewers, Harry. Harry's gone. And it's
Yeah.
this phenomenally shot
Yes.
sewer chase.
So many great angles, the sounds of the water, the echoes, the massive openings, and it feels like that painting. I can't remember who did it with all the kind of crazy staircases, like upside
Yeah,
down
I know
and
what you mean.
sideways, and
Yeah.
that was replicated in Labyrinth. Um, it feels like that. And so, popping in and out of different spaces and him kind
Yeah.
of going up a staircase and then finding the cops waiting for him and then he has to go another way. Such an intense moment. And I don't know, something about just the sequence of it and Harry kind of just being alone, completely alone in this situation, this overwhelming situation. For whatever reason, I was getting this feeling of wanting him to get away. Like,
Yeah, you do.
I don't
It's
know.
weird.
Yeah.
You actively view him as the villain of the movie that he is.
Yes.
But there is always, I think, something about a chase where you kind of want the person being chased to get away, no matter who they are.
Yes. Yeah, it was just a wild kind of feeling that was striking me as he's kind of, getting into these close spots, finding a bunch of people waiting for him on one end, and he has to find another way, and he's hiding around a corner, and they've just missed him. And then the great sequence where he kind of goes out into that middle area of
Yeah.
all of these different openings, and we're focusing on different just black hole archways and pipe
Yeah.
holes, and he's hearing echoed voices coming out of each one, and he doesn't know, he can't tell where they're coming from, and just the panic on his face, and seeing this character who we saw so kind of cool, calm, and collected
Yeah.
on his first appearance, now just kind of in this panicked state, looking at
Trapped.
each shadow and not knowing where these voices are coming from, completely trapped. Such a great sequence, just hearing those echoed voices. I loved that. He ultimately kind of goes in just whatever random one because he doesn't know, and this is where he runs into Holly,
Yeah.
and that kind of ends up being the big kind of climax, because then all of the officers, Calloway and his right-hand guy, end up hearing their conversation, so now they know where they are.
Yeah.
Um, and the right-hand guy goes to shoot at Harry, but he ultimately gets shot.
Yes, he
Yeah.
does.
Yeah.
He does. See, this is where I view it as a double cross from Holly,
Okay.
because he's actively chasing his old friend down.
Mhm.
He's clearly still old friends with him and holds some sort of affection
Mhm.
towards him still, clearly. But he is being paid off by the police, because we didn't mention that either.
Oh,
Like,
yes.
they're paying him
Mhm.
off to give to help them
Yeah.
catch Harry,
Yeah.
because he's broke, he's no
Mhm.
money. He
Yeah.
needs that.
Mhm.
So in his desperation for money, he double crosses his old friend. And yes, his old friend is a villain.
Yeah.
He's a bad person, fundamentally. He has done bad things, sure. But it's still an old friend.
Yes. I mean,
And
I'm
he doesn't the end the ending with Holly and Harry is even more interesting, and I will
yeah.
ask the planned third question now.
Okay. Okay.
Because we see, obviously, Holly and Harry together. Harry's gone up this sort of spiral staircase or ladder
Mhm.
sort of situation to try and
Yeah.
get out of a sewer grate on the surface, and he can't quite get this kind of grid open.
Mhm.
So he's very much trapped there. Holly comes running in at the bottom of this ladder situation,
Mhm.
and essentially there's a stare off between the
Yeah.
two of them.
Mhm.
There's a face off between the two of them, and Harry gives this sort of nod,
Nod. Yeah.
because from the background, Calloway's shouting,
Don't
don't
take any
take any
chance.
chances, shoot on
Shoot
sight,
'em.
and all
Yeah.
this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And you're hearing all this echoing throughout all the sewers.
Mhm.
And Harry gives this sort of nod of understanding, as though to say,
Do
Holly,
what you
you've
gotta
got
do,
to
friend.
shoot me now. Do what you've
Yeah.
got to do. It's okay.
Yeah.
Spiritually, you are forgiven and all this kind of
Yes.
stuff.
Do what you gotta do, old boy. Yeah.
Do what you've got to do, old boy. But you hear the gunshot off screen.
Mhm.
You never see Harry die again. So, given the whole movie is about Harry faking his death, my third question is, does Holly actually kill Harry at this
I
point?
mean, we
Because
get
you can't argue that you say we get another funeral, because we had a funeral in the first place.
but do you think there would be now a thorough check this time to make sure that the right body is in the casket?
Are we ever told that?
No.
I'm just
No, we're
saying, are
not.
we ever told that, when
I
we have to
mean
go with the information the movie gives us?
I think it's a fun thing to think about that he did ultimately. I think that was a purposeful choice to not show us,
Of course it was.
so
Of
that we could
course
think
it
about
was.
that.
Of
So,
course it was.
yeah, I think
So
there's
is it eventually a double cross, because does Holly just shoot thin air and allow Harry to get up out of that grate on the surface and
go, yeah.
go where he needs to go, escape, essentially? But then, okay, who would they use as a Harry body?
Yeah.
nobody knows. But who did they use in the other one in the first place that nobody really thought to check?
Yeah.
They found someone. I'm saying there's a possibility.
Yeah. I think that's a fair possibility to surmise and think about for sure.
And I like the
I like
thought
the
of
open
it.
air of that. Yes, I think it's very
Yes.
interesting. I think it's a purposeful choice for us to just hear the echoed gunshot and not 100% know.
Yeah. And we obviously fade straight in then to
The
Harry's second
second
funeral.
funeral, yeah. Yeah.
And it's played very similar to the first as well.
Mhm.
It's quite mirroring in that way.
Yeah.
Even down to Calloway driving Holly back down this big street past Anna, who's just walking, and then
Mhm.
the camera stops and turns to look at Anna, and
Yeah.
Holly turns to look at Anna, and this is the great ending shot you were talking about
Mhm.
before.
Yeah. It's
There's this
beautiful.
enormous
Mhm.
wide of
Yeah.
just this tree-lined street, and
Yeah.
Anna walking down towards a waiting Holly. Do we think Holly deserves pleasantness from Anna at the end of this movie? That is another question. Oh,
I mean, considering her stance on everything, no. I
no.
don't expect her to show any love for him, especially if kind of like my thoughts on her feelings towards him it are kind of what I kind of viewed as her.
He's there waiting for her, though.
Yeah,
He
yeah,
can't drag
as
himself
her.
away.
Yes, as her either in your eyes kind of maybe manipulating him in service of Harry, or her bonding with him, kind of trauma bonding with him over the loss of a kind of joint friend or joint
Yeah.
person they cared about. So either scenario, he is against Harry in her eyes. So she's not even going to entertain that. And maybe she's walking her way to Harry wherever he's hiding.
Maybe
So
she is.
so it's a
Maybe she
determined
is.
walk to the one she really wants.
I mean, we don't see her reach Holly, who's waiting
No.
for her, do we?
No, she
Before
completely
it fades
ignores
out.
him. She completely as mirrored in the first funeral because she didn't know
Yeah.
him. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's very
Interesting.
interesting.
Yes, but beautiful
I'm
shot
very
too.
glad. I'm just very glad you enjoyed the movie so much.
Yes, I
You got
did.
really into it
Yes. Yeah.
because I do think it is a enormously entertaining
Mhm.
mystery.
Yeah.
Wonderfully stylish, great noir sensibilities. Of course, maybe not all tropes of great American noir, but again, this is
No, and
we're
we've
in
talked about
different
that.
vibes
Yes.
here because
And
we are
I
British produced.
yes,
We
but I
might be
think we
starring Americans,
yeah.
which we are. We're actually
Mhm.
starring Americans this week. Joseph Cotten and Orson Welles, obviously.
Yes. I mean, and I think we've talked about that before in noir conversations that yes, there are kind of known tropes, but generally there's a tone,
Yeah,
a bit of a structure underlying a film that can still consider it noir,
it's the
despite not
one
having
genre.
those very kind of popular tropes in
Yeah,
within it.
it's the one genre that is the most malleable.
Yeah.
Because a horror movie is a horror movie.
Mhm.
A sci-fi movie is a sci-fi movie. A western is a western. A comedy is a comedy. But you can have so many discussions on what noir is. There can be noir comedies. There can be noir westerns. There can be noir horror movies. There
Yeah.
can. So it's a very, very malleable genre. Some people would argue it's not even a genre at all because it doesn't fall in line with the kind of tried and true tropes that other genres have that you can pinpoint. X movie is Y genre because of,
Yeah.
XYZ. It
Yeah.
doesn't have that structure, noir. You
Yeah.
can never, it's always just vibes, which
Yeah.
is why I think that obviously as a genre, it's had such a resurgence in the last sort of decade, not in modern movies, but in looking back and people becoming far more fond of the the noir cycle from the 40s to the late 50s,
Yeah.
because people like vibes movies,
Yes.
and noir are vibes movies. They're
100%.
very plotty. They can be very plotty, sure, but you get a cynical edge and a mysterious quality and expressionistic style,
Yes.
and people love it, and I love it, and I'm very excited to have done this episode on The Third Man.
Yes.
Jeannine, 1949's The Third Man. Carol Reed directed, again, of course, starring Joseph Cotten, Alida Valli, Orson Welles, barely, and Trevor Howard. I mean, he says not 10 lines in the movie, I don't think.
No.
It's very, very... There's one conversation scene with him, which is that one in the fairground.
Yeah.
And that's literally it. Any other time he's showing up in the movie, he's
quietly running
up or in a shadow in a doorway, in an alley, running.
Yeah.
And he's got such an obviously wonderful speaking voice, Orson Welles, as well. When he is, acting with his voice, he's almost better acting with his voice than he is without his voice.
Yeah.
But he does what he does. He does what is required of him in this movie, and he does it pretty damn well, as he often tends to be honest. Well, I say he's better at acting with his voice than he isn't. Apart from in The Lady from Shanghai, when he's playing an Irishman, and it's the world's worst accent. It ruins the movie. It genuinely does ruin the movie.
Yeah.
If you've ever watched The Lady from Shanghai with Rita Hayworth, obviously Rita Hayworth and Orson Welles were an item at the time. Rita Hayworth's blonde in the movie. That's a bit strange for, as well, but there you go. Rita Hayworth's great. The entire movie is basically, I'm Orson Welles, I'm going to make this movie to show off how beautiful my girlfriend is.
Yeah,
and that's what he does.
Oh, yeah.
That's exactly what he does in that movie. But then he casts himself, obviously, as he likes to do.
Yeah.
As the lead Irish character. And it's just the most... I don't know why he thought he could pull that off.
I mean, it's a common thing. It's definitely a common thing to do that. To show off.
It is.
Your wrist,
It is. Oh yeah, that element of that movie is great.
Yeah.
It's just spoiled greatly
by
Orson Welles' acting within the movie, which is very, very unusual. That's never been said before.
Yeah.
Orson Welles movie, and certainly not said in The Third Man. No. But of course, we'll be back with, as we said, with Sir Carol Reed directing again next week, and James Mason. There's somebody else with another great voice.
Yeah.
I wonder how James Mason's Irish will go. He's playing an Irish nationalist in Odd Man Out, which is next week's movie. So
yes.
It's supposed to be a very, very good movie. It's not one I have seen. 1947 is that, and I hope it's as good as I hear it is. I'm sure it will provoke and promote an interesting discussion, as it always does in celebrating great noir movies on It's a Wonderful Podcast, Jeannine, as we are doing this month for Noirvember 2025. Brit Noir is our series here on this show. Of course, it is not the only show you can find on the It's a Wonderful Podcast feed, though, is it, Jeannine?
Of course not. Of course, we have Morgan Hasn't Seen every Wednesday on the It's a Wonderful Podcast feed, where I make you watch movies you haven't seen. And this month we are having our John Grisham adaptation series. So we're talking films based on his law thriller novels. So yeah, we have some really fun stuff, some stacked casts, some great directors in that series. So it should be a fun time.
It certainly should be. Of course, diving into Doctor Who and discovering Dawson's Creek alternate every Monday on this podcast feed as well. Do subscribe wherever you are listening to today. And of course, subscribe and ding your notification bell on the It's Wonderful Podcast YouTube channel. If you are watching today's special video podcast episode, it was voted for. It did win the poll this month. Did the third man. That was very unusual as well.
Yeah.
It's a rarity that a main show episode wins the poll.
Yeah.
I think this is only the second time this year that a main show has won the monthly poll. So that's exciting. Credit to the third man for being popular. I suppose it is. It's very popular. But I like that. I like that about it as well. But yes, do subscribe and ding your notification bell on the It's Wonderful Podcast YouTube channel. Of course, subscribe wherever you are listening to today. Leave your comments on Spotify. Rate and review on all other major podcast platforms, wherever that may be. If you would like to support us on Patreon or donate in any way, you can find links to do that in the description of this episode. If you are watching, there's been things scrolling down at the bottom of the screen all episode long as well. But of course, you can just find us on and across all the social medias. On the app formerly known as Twitter and on Blue Sky at It's a Wonderful One. Find me on the app formerly known as Twitter at The Purple Donut with a 3 instead of the E in there because, Jeannine?
3 is a magic number.
On Instagram, TikTok and Blue Sky at The Purple Dawn. All your third men are where...
You can find them and me at Jeannine Devine _ on Twitter, Jeannine Devine on Instagram, TikTok, and Blue Sky. And if you want to get any merch for any of our shows, just check the description for the link or search G9 Design on tpublic.com.
Well, there we do go indeed. And I don't know, impressions, maybe not impressions. Maybe just treat us to a countdown based on the Harry Lime theme today, please, Jim. Because it's such a good piece of music.
I know.
Very nice. Bye.